Alrighty, we are live for another episode of Audiophiles Anonymous. I pass it over to Tyler here, so take it away.
Hey, everybody. We have another great show. We're going to kind of have some fun discussion today about maybe a couple different random things, I think. What do you think, guys? We were discussing maybe some interesting topics of like niche market. Like what is
Alrighty, we are live
oops.
for another
The niche market, it is kind of like so I'm thinking like these things, the LCD i4s, the SR1As, I'd almost consider, I don't know, what would be some other ones you would think would be a niche market use case, like
Well, I think it's important to ask that question of like what is
what
a
is
niche
the niche
market,
market?
considering the fact that like for so many people, the using wires, headphones with wires is
that
niche already, right?
yeah.
So I tend to think that you know the high end audiophile stuff, there's a number of barriers there that make it more niche than just the regular stuff that the big box stores. The first I think is the price for some of it, but at the same time, like people are spending like $300-$400 on pairs of headphones,
Mhm.
so it's not that outlandish, to consider, okay, yeah, if you could get over the fact that these ones have wires and they're not noise canceling, then suddenly this like, the niche is no longer as unique. And those barriers are kind of broken down. But then once you're in that, like us, like we are, there are a number of different things out there, like the SR1A, the MySphere,
The
the
mindset,
the
there you go.
iSign,
Mhm.
iSign LCD
iSigns.
i4 and
Mhm.
i3, where it's pretty darn unique even
Unique,
for
yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with the let's talk about the iSign stuff first, because like I know
Yeah.
you just did the evaluation of the i4 there, and I haven't had a chance to
Oh,
review that
magnets.
yet. So oh
Magnets
yeah,
are playing
yeah.
nice with me.
Those
So
are not fun to photograph because if you're trying to like place them in a creative way, they'll just like
yeah, yeah,
slap
funk.
together.
Yeah, like get through real
Yeah.
quick. Like these are go over the eyes. Come on, focus there, camera. So they connect real easy. I actually have the newer, I guess they're newer ear hooks things. I don't know. You can see the little sharp little edge there, which makes them actually really comfortable. I'm actually really excited for these because they do sound with the little part here. Made them really
Yeah.
comfortable for me. And to me specifically with the sorry, I have a little Odyssey zip up here, but it's the specifically with the cipher cable.
Right.
Ooh, camera not focusing
Are you
properly.
using that's lightning, right?
The
With
lightning cipher cable,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes, the best kind of connector.
And
Yeah.
yeah, no, USB-C, man. Everyone
Yeah.
get on board. But
One can only dream.
I know, right? uh I to be honest with you, like I was having a hard time initially with these in the sense of like what they're good, like who the target is, like the market, like that
Yeah.
niche market, right?
Yeah, but
And
that's my struggle with all the iSign stuff.
yeah,
But I do think there is one. So
yeah. Actually, as I was getting used to them, I was using them a lot, and I was like, wow,
yeah.
like I think I came up with a couple of just random examples of what um uh would be their use case, right? And so I thought, because I know a couple of friends that are from different forums and stuff like that were had to go to hospital for certain things, and I remember seeing pictures
Yeah.
of one guy. He had like his huge tube amp set up on the side stand with his ZMFs and like this massive thing, it was like the WA 33s or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Which that's expensive to take to a hospital just to have headphones. And I was like,
Yeah.
these would be perfect for that because they get you to the point where you can enjoy music and not be an IEM. Like they don't have an IEM sound; they sound like headphones. Specifically, to me, anyways, they sound like if you were to take like the LCD GX and I want to say LCD 3, like the smoothness of the GX and like maybe not as much detail, but then and like they're weird. I can't even say that because they're pretty detailed, but not like massively. But they're definitely warmer. So to me they sound like the
Right.
warmth of
I
the
get what you're saying.
LCD 3, but the smoothness of the GX, I guess.
Hmm.
But they're not to the level of the LCD 3.
See, and the thing is though, like with those, there's I think an interesting comparison would be with like how close does the detail get for those and the speed and all that stuff to the higher end Odysseys like the LCD 4, which is right here.
Oh yeah, that's right. You had the
LCD
4
4.
there.
Yeah,
Just
do you
so people can see what they look like in the ear. They look like something out of a cyberpunk deal, and then those little hooks actually sit pretty decently. Like they don't like I can. Oh, I'm gonna knock my headphones off, but
You'd actually be surprised. One
I
thing,
mean you can.
recently I've been coming across
Try do that.
friends.
Try doing that with an SR1A.
Oh, no.
Or an LCD4.
Oh,
You'll do
yeah.
yourself some damage.
My head just falls off.
I don't want to be seen. No, I don't have a webcam.
Yeah. Yeah, we're working.
Sorry, what were
on
you saying?
That
Chrono?
I've actually been seeing more and more people that I played games with
Hmm.
swapping over to earbuds because they say for gaming it's more comfortable.
And with that as well, there are a
Isolation.
lot of people. So this from the I know that from the competitive side of things, at least for SC2, there were a lot of people who would use earbuds, and then because they're in tournament environments where they didn't want to, or they weren't allowed to hear what the like announcers or casters were saying, they'd have like these the I don't know what they call them, but basically they're like the noise isolating headphones over top of the earbuds, so they get all the audio through the earbuds, and then they'd like isolate all the rest of the sound
The
around them.
ANC,
Yep.
Yeah, which makes a certain amount of sense.
Yeah, it's craziness. So that's the other thing I was gonna say. So the other thing, real quick on the niche market piece of this, was I was thinking that another group would be, speaking of the weight, is anyone that just can't stand the weight but wants that headphone sound with. I mean, these I think are that, like, if you can't.
Wait, let's try and put it.
I know.
There we go. This, like, that's the thing, is I love the Odyssey performance, technical performance, but the weight is such a killer for me that I think the i9 or the i4 is like maybe that is, if the technical performance is close enough, that I'm in that niche market, right? Like I am one of the people who would be the target for that, which makes a certain amount of sense.
Yeah, and I think that's where they really shine, specifically with the Cypher cable, though, or if you can get the Reveal plugin to work with it on like a, I think you can get the Reveal on like an iPhone or on a Android.
I'm not sure about that. That'd be interesting.
That'd be but if you can EQ them, I think that would be where, like, obviously you can on a phone, any of the phones, but like I think that's where they really shine. It seems like all Odysseys seem to be the EQing headphones.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I would do anyways, is I would just EQ it. But depending on how the frequency response is with Reveal Plus, right? Like I imagine it's because they do optimize the frequency response there. So,
and Sheldon actually hits it on the head. I think that's the other. I think that's what their actual target was to have that travel capability, and then have, like, in your hotel room, or maybe even getting. They're pretty loud though. I mean, you definitely can hear them if you're a couple feet away.
Oh,
but,
the leaking.
The leaking, not horribly, but it's definitely there. But that's what I would say their use case is like, I want to have my LCD sound while I'm traveling, but the portability. They don't want. I mean, who wants to take a big ass LCD headphone around with them everywhere?
Honestly, I mean, the LCD XC here is. Well, I you guys know I was really impressed by this and not expecting to like it as much as I did. But I was comparing the LCD X's comfort to that of the LCD4, and it's way more comfortable. For some reason, even though they supposedly weigh the same, I've actually ordered a weigh scale to be able to, like, a little small weigh scale to be able to tell. Yeah, just to make sure, because maybe it's not. Like maybe this is actually lighter, and it's the specs are wrong or something. But it does make a difference, like between these two. So I think for me the big question is, like, the reason why I haven't jumped on the i4 train yet, well, obviously because I haven't heard it, but like there's a question mark for me for, like, other aspects, like dynamics and soundstage and all the rest of the stuff that I've never been able to really get from an IEM the same way I get from good over-ear headphones in those categories. Dynamics is getting better because the hybrid IEMs are coming out and they have dynamic drivers and bass and stuff like that. But for me, that's always the reason why I tend to gravitate to over-ear headphones anyway. So the question mark for me with the i4 would be, like, how good is it at those qualities? Because the big LCDs are really good at that stuff, right? So
yeah, like I think it's like I said. So I think what they're doing with it, for me anyways, is that it's like right there, like, right, but it's not quite like perfect one. It's not 1-to-1, but it's close enough, if that makes sense. Like where it's close enough to where it fits that use case where I'm happy with it, and I can run around and honestly just being able to plug it directly into my iPhone and run around and listen to music with them. And like I built my gazebo. Right. I built a gazebo over the weekend, and I had those in the whole time, and like so it was great for that.
What's the power? Like it's not too difficult to drive, or do you need like a DAP or something? No.
Honestly, you don't. I think they're I'm plugged into my bottle of crack on top of the computer. So I don't know if they even have it on the box here. I might be able to pull it open. I might have to pull it up online.
But you were able to run it from your phone. And
yeah, I mean, I'm literally running it off my phone most of the time, and it was perfectly fine. With the cipher cable.
With the cipher, yeah, right. That's the idea. But then the question is like, does that impart?
And then the only other time I used it was off of the KN6II. So
right.
I will say I didn't like it as much without the cipher cable. So
right, because I was gonna say you're using the lightning connector to get the power there.
To get a little bit of power, and then it also adds whatever supposedly isn't there like a DSP in it in the cipher?
Well, yeah,
cable?
They'd be digital. So yes, right. But did that come with a Bluetooth function as well? Like
it does.
Bluetooth.
It does have a Bluetooth
so
cable.
That in theory should also have the cipher in it, like the DSP in it. So you could be rocking this wirelessly. So you not only have wireless with DSP, and potential for like LCD, like high-end LCD level technical performance.
And
that's pretty crazy.
It is. Like that's the really crazy part. But I mean, I will say, like I don't know if you've seen it or not yet, but it's the Bluetooth it's not small by any means.
Right.
Big, massive.
Still though, right? Like,
I mean, to give you an idea.
I mean, it's like those old school wireless
and then these would sit pretty much like right under your ears. These big. It'd be like
they're supposed to go behind your head, like.
Yeah, isn't it like the
you would think, but then the way that these sit in your ear, like they do not do well with over ear because they sit.
Okay.
Yeah, like I originally did them over ear, and I was just like, that's the right side. And it did not. Yeah, I was like, oh, this isn't working. But they sit like that. See how it angles forward with the 2-pin.
Right. Okay. So you wouldn't want that to be pulled backwards by having. So then these would just
dangle down like basically like that, like having those weird like 80s girl ear like the. But they're nice. I mean, the feel. I was actually really impressed with like the feel of these cables, and the cipher cables. Really nice cables. They're not too janky or anything. But yeah, I was impressed. I'm impressed with it enough that I could definitely see the use case of it now. Like I wasn't really that intrigued by it until everyone was like, "Oh, what's that? Tell me more." And I want to know more. And I was like, "Oh, okay."
I think. I mean, speaking of the niche stuff, like I'll ask Chrono, if this is something that he would consider, but because I know he's not into IEMs, but like for me, the whole reason for IEMs, I know there's IEM enthusiasts out there who might disagree with this, but for me, the whole reason for IEMs is the portability aspect of it, which means that having it be closed off is so essential. And the concept of an open back IEM is just so strange to me that it suddenly loses a lot of the appeal there. But then that question is like, if it is good enough, if it is the same kind of performance, then it's a replacement for a totally different thing.
Yes.
Right, and that's what puts it into that sort of niche category. I don't know, Chrono, what do you think? Is this something you would?
They even call it not an IEM; they call it an in-ear headphone.
Right, so right, exactly.
I think they're a little bit on the nose with it, but yeah.
Yeah. Chrono?
Would I consider it? The thing is, like, I think the concept is very cool. Just to think that something that's like an in-ear headphone can sound like that. I haven't heard them, but I mean, it's very impressive in its own right. It's just I personally have always struggled with like in-ear stuff because it always, like, I don't know, something about my ear canal or something. It always hurts for me, so I can't wear them. So it wouldn't be an option for me. But definitely the weight part of it, I think that would be better. For a lot of people, if they're not, because anything under 500 grams, as odd as these are, can be a tough wear.
And that's something else to be aware of too. Is these actually they I've never worn the Neurophone. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh man,
the
yeah.
weird little
I think it's
thing?
Wait, is it like the over ear that has like
the
in
little
ear stuff
the
in
little
it?
phallic things that go that like they don't go in your
that's the
ear.
only
They
way
just
to describe
they
it.
just they just kind of rest in the and that's what these do kind of in my opinion. They don't actually insert in. They just kind of just kind of tickle you there, right there on the entry of your ear canal.
Yeah.
So it's not really quite. I mean, they go in.
I remember
but,
that.
Yeah.
But they do have a thick nozzle though.
Yeah, these things
right?
are massive, dude. Like so.
Yeah,
I mean, you're like it's
it might be an
it's
issue.
no joke. Like
Yeah.
it's this giant bore. Like it's
yeah, for anybody with really small ear canals, maybe that's a barrier as well.
Yeah, let's see
Yeah,
here to get an
that's probably the
idea.
barrier for
So
me.
here's an
This'll-
Asla Sedna. Yeah, I'm gonna be able to pull this off without blocking it. So there's the Asla Sedna tip, and it does not even remotely fit on that.
Right,
That's what these are considered one of the bigger board.
It requires that
yeah.
ones that come with, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there might be somebody that has. I don't think so. I think this probably you have to get from us. I'm trying to think if there's any.
Yeah.
I just can't think of a single other IEM with the bore size that big. So,
Right.
But yeah. Yeah, I would say
So-
not. Thanks, Sheldon. Yeah, I agree.
yeah, which is a bummer actually.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a challenge. But yeah, okay. So actually, speaking of like niche stuff, the Neurophone is another one of those somewhat weird ones. But actually, like I think those a lot of the EStat stuff is as well. Like not the like SR009, SR007, but the other ones like the L700, like the Lambda series.
Oh yeah.
Those ones are. I mean, they're still headphones, right? Because they still do couple to your ear, the side of your head. But that's already like down the path of like ear speaker and and then like the furthest version of that, at least ergonomically, is like the SR1A or the MySphere.
Yeah, I think, or then you can even like. Have you seen the new Bose eyeglasses that have the speakers?
What?
Oh yeah,
I was at Target the other day and I saw them. They had a demo for them, and I put them on. And I was just like, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's super ridiculous. But I was like, it actually sounds good enough. Like it doesn't, and it isn't loud where people. I mean, you can hear it, but it's not like it's very isolating to. I mean, this bubble. And I was like, for just walking around, it's kind of cool. But at the same time, though, who buys glasses for? You know what I mean?
I know.
Like, it's such a weird.
That's really weird.
Well,
Yeah.
they got like the Wayfarer kind of style, so they look kind of.
They're kind of like these. They have they have that why am I blanking? The Ray-Ban style. You know the Ray-Ban.
Yeah, the Wayfarer.
Wayfarer.
Ray-Ban.
Thank you. And
Wait, are they sunglasses?
they can be. I think you can get them to.
Oh,
they
but can you get them like
they're
prescriptions?
frames. Yeah, they're frames.
You can get
Oh, they're
prescription.
frames. Okay.
I think you can get prescription for it
Yeah,
though,
you
can't
can.
you?
Yeah. I think there was something about that. You just have to take it to the eye doctor, and they can.
But
order it
but
and
would
stuff.
like
But why?
wouldn't
That's
that,
super
like,
expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's a really like why? Because like I don't
And
know, like,
that's always gonna be the question with niche stuff.
yeah.
But why?
Why?
Maybe you want that speaker feeling wherever you're walking. I mean, does it sound more like speakers or headphones?
Speakers. It sounds like speakers.
Because it's
Yeah, so maybe you
the
want that
sound's going
speaker
out.
feeling wherever
Yeah,
you're going.
it's kind of. I think. Wait, no. So it shoots it down into your ear. So it's like they have this little notch right here, and it kind of shoots it
Oh, okay.
down and in. So almost kind of like the SR1A actually, or the MySphere.
But does this
And
does this inflict the other people's music choices on everybody around them, or is it
that was
just
the weird part? The bubble for the noise, like the way I think it is even less noisy than
Really?
these. Yeah, which was crazy. Like and then
because like I've got a real I've got a real
they have bass.
problem with the those
walk
like,
around
the back-
with your boombox
Yeah,
and
yeah. Well, like people have those backpacks that have like the speakers built into them, and then they just like
mhm.
you
just
they'll
walk around, go skateboarding,
Yeah, like-
and you're like,
and they just blast it. And you're like,
my
"Wha-
lawn, you dirty little.
yeah, exactly. Like, I'll shake a stick at them, shake my
Not even
cane.
that. I mean, people listen to music pretty loud. Like people walking around with AirPods, you can hear their music.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fair.
that's
Yeah.
pretty unhealthy.
I was gonna say another one that was interesting. I actually just saw it recently. I guess the Neurophone just came out with the Neuro Loop. Have you seen that? It's a
No.
new thing. I just saw it today, so I'm not. I was like, whoa, what's this? And it's a Bluetooth thing. And so I guess the big thing with Neurophones and the Neuro Loop is that they use technology to basically map your hearing. Like supposedly.
Yeah.
Is
I,
that like the?
that's the theory behind it.
Yeah.
I think it's like personalized audio. The problem with that stuff though is that like if you put all of your R&D and effort into that, you may end up getting
Skull
a
candy?
decent you may end up getting a decent tuning, but I think you're severely limited on what you're doing like with
Mhm.
technical performance. So while you might get a great FR, it at the end of the day might still kind of sound not worth it.
Yeah.
When you consider that there are other headphones that have really good FRs, like
It-
the HD6XX for super cheap, with really good technical performance as well,
Yeah.
like for detail and stuff. So I'd have a hard time unless again, I haven't heard it, so I can't pass too much judgment. But like,
I mean, either,
unless it's like actually got some really good technical performance there, I don't know if just the personalization aspect is good enough
I think
to make it.
if you could take that technology, for instance, and be able to do it with other
Yeah, like
that
put
would
it
be
into
cool.
a verite or
And
something.
then
Yeah.
exactly. If you could just take that part out of it and make it a software company instead of a headphone company, right? Like that'd be cool.
But at the same token, like you at some level you have to
for Casas. Sorry.
Oh yeah. At some level though, with that you have to put a microphone in your
In your ear.
ear to be able to get that. But still, I don't like. That's a big question in my mind. It's like, what's actually going on there? Like, I was talking to either Oratory or Mad Economist about this, and they were saying that like there's a like a it's a cool idea, but there's like a fundamental problem with the method that they or their approach to this idea. I'd have to talk to them again about it. They were more knowledgeable about this because I don't actually know what's going on with it.
Yeah.
But
I
the
know.
idea of let's say you did have something where you're able to perfectly map out the shape of of your own ear and then adjust a frequency response based on that. The theory behind that is really cool because you'd be able to like we talk about like the Harman target and stuff like that because that's like the average consumer preference that's most likely going to be right for most people, but it's still an average. And and in theory everybody is technically not that. Everybody is somewhere along the line, close to that, but not actually that. So if you could perfectly match it to what your own personalized hearing or ear shape is for all the gain factors and
That'd be
whatnot,
pretty fantastic.
and you perfectly match it to what your brain expects to hear, then it's potentially really, really good. But I really don't know how that's going to be in practice because there's so many other different variables to consider. Even just like what Tom from Dunu was talking about, the recent podcast we did, where like how do you take into consideration the like cartilage or like all the different the way that your the soft tissue is on the inside of your ear, like how do you really
and everyone's different, like I mean ears are like fingerprints for crying out loud, it seems like.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's the idea that they're trying to solve, I guess. They're trying to,
which is cool. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Like it's like new science or R&D, I guess. I mean,
it's a first step towards a good idea.
It's
and we'll see what happens with that.
But yeah, like I think that's interesting. And then actually speaking of like some of the other niche stuff like that, like the MySphere, the SR1A, and I'd almost want to say, like honestly, I was thinking about this. I want to say the headaphone is kind of a niche. Headaphone.
It totally is because it's it's very different in terms of the technology that it uses, like for to create air movement, which is not at all like dynamic or planar or electrostatic.
I'm challenging myself to wear these for the entire stream. I actually have the
that's what we need. He does. That's what we need to have. Yeah.
Well, if I had a camera, I would look absolutely bonkers because that's what you look like when you wear headphones.
If Lost 33 can do it, my man.
Well, it's a very interesting headphone, definitely.
Yeah. Well, you went with the two clampiest. Well, not clampiest, but two heaviest.
Yeah, too heavy.
Yeah.
They're clampy. They're both pretty.
They're clampy, but the Rad Zero was more clampy. Like
which one? Yeah, but the thing is, the Rad Zero. Yeah, my head ended up boiling, right? So like now the ear cups are further. The ear cups are like, wait, hold up, give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm measuring this. All right, I'm seeing measuring with my eyes, by the way. I'm seeing like maybe 3 inches further apart. further apart than they were when I first got them. So yeah, my head won that battle. The headphone, on the other hand, it's trying me, man. It's trying.
Well, just give it some more time, and maybe your head will win that battle too.
Yeah, yeah, maybe
head versus head.
head versus head. Yeah, indeed. That's a great. That would make for a great video.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It is also a somewhat niche thing. Actually, before we get to that, have you had a have either of you guys had a chance to hear the MySphere?
I have, yeah.
What were your thoughts?
I thought it was a less good SR1A.
Very much so.
Yeah, very much so less good SR1A. Yeah.
Yeah. But
it wasn't bad.
So much,
it's just
that was one where I was like, but why?
Yeah.
Whereas with the SR1A, it's like that's actually like, okay, yeah, I can see why, right?
Yeah, there's a niche market that fits that, and they're solid. Actually, the first time I ever saw the MySphere was at Can Jam San Diego last year, and it was this kid with a backpack, and he had a cable coming out of his backpack. And I think it was using the Sony W, the big Sony portable amp. You know what I'm talking about? The WM. Is it not 1A? Is it 1A?
Yeah, I saw it at. Wasn't it at the? Didn't they have that meet at?
Yeah, they had it. Yeah, that's that one. It was that.
Yeah,
that
I know
big,
that one.
Massive Sony. He had it in his backpack. And the only reason I knew that is because I saw him later, and him and his buddy both had MySpheres and both had these things, and they had this amp of the thing, and then they're walking around the Can Jam with these MySpheres on, and you're like.
But like, would that be like? I actually think that is more ridiculous looking and functioning than the SR1A.
And it's a pain in the butt to get properly on your head to get
it's heavy
right.
too.
And it's like this weird, and you have to do like this, and then like just to get it to. I don't know. It was. I don't know. It was just a weird. And not to say like, it's a bad thing. It's just different.
I see there like the claim there. I think, and I don't know if that's intentional, but like I could see it being like to make it more portable, right? So you don't need to have the crazy speaker amp and whatnot, right? You can run it from a backpack. But here's like the counter to that.
Run a headphone from your backpack. That's just I don't know why that's
good luck.
Funny.
Yeah.
Run a headphone.
But this is but this is even more ridiculous. I think.
Yeah.
Because. But like the counter to the idea of it being more portable is like then that is like so much more ridiculous.
Or what you have on your head, or these. I mean, let's.
Yeah, what like that was really like why make this a portable thing? I don't know if that was intentional. Like if they were
maybe it's just what people just gravitated to with it. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it is nice that you don't have to use a speaker amp and you can use like a DAP or something like that. But actually, speaking of which, I mean, even just DAPs, like getting onto the DAP train, that's niche on its own. That's a niche on its own. Well,
have you seen the guy with it's a meme now? I'm sure everyone's seen it, but the dude that literally has the mohawk, and then he has like that cluster that's like it's like 10 of these, and they're all like different. Like
he's creating a mohawk out of the DAPs and sources.
He actually didn't create. He did actually. It's just the power going through it just wiped out all the hair around.
It's all part of it. It's all
But yeah, man, it's crazy. Like how that. I mean, these I would say. Definitely DAPs, even IEMs when you think about it are kind of niche, right? Like
as opposed to like earbuds
specifically like so out of I mean our hobby in and of itself is a niche thing. I mean, you got people going nuts over vinyl and like you could record players to. I mean, speaking of, you were talking about that. The gentleman in Japan that literally installed the power pole to get the best power possible to his house to run his speakers and his vinyl collection.
The funny thing about that, like to me, is you care so much about clean power, and people make a big deal about it. All that stuff, and like there's all those like power converters and power like optimizers and whatnot. You can get all that stuff. Then, and this is something that Metal 571 was talking about before, where he said like, nobody really seems to care about the power that's going to your house. Well, this guy does.
Yeah, he obviously does. He spent a lot of money.
and he right. So he replaced the power going to his house. But then I happened to notice that like. He's just running everything off, like he's doing it all for a vinyl collection, which to me was like, what? Like you're replacing power for your vinyl setup. That kind of was like, like
Hey man, you gotta respect the grind, the dedication to it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like, okay, that's cool, right? Like you're doing something nobody else has done, and it's definitely a claim to fame. And I'm not saying that there's vinyl is fine, right? Like if you like vinyl, it's great, but I don't see the benefit of replacing the power pole for the vinyl collection, right? That's just where the cognitive dissonance hits me a little bit. But yeah,
Someone asked this, Jack saying the elephant ear. So I'll
the
pull
elephant
them
ear.
out so people can see. The SR1A.
Oh yeah,
that's
that's right. Yeah.
So I have the wonderful co-pilot pad from ZMF on here to make
Nice. Yeah.
comfy. But yeah, these
Let me
things
say CMF.
just.
And you know what? They don't even look that ridiculous.
Yeah.
They don't. Like,
and then you can.
oh man, that's.
I mean, I've gone
that
beyond.
does look
I'm
ridiculous. I take it back.
Them, but I usually let's see. I can usually dial it in pretty quick. I've had it to about 30 degrees is my sweet spot, and so what I do is and so that's more or less my sweet spot.
I don't think it looks that wonky. I think I think the head audio headphone looks weirder.
I don't know.
Well, everybody who's seen it on me has laughed, so you know.
Yeah, but everybody who saw the SR1A on me has laughed at length.
Touche, touche.
Yeah.
Even just photos of it, right? Like, but I don't think it looks bad. Like aesthetically,
it looks like a race
it's
car,
fine. Yeah, like it's maybe a little bit too a little bit too race carish, but still, I don't mind the way that all that stuff looks.
And the thing is, they're modular. They can take the whole thing apart, and then these things are actually cartridges. I think you have to.
If there's something ever breaks with the
you just pop,
ribbon, you can just replace it. Yeah. But weren't they saying like they don't really have to do that often? Like it's a rare thing.
Yeah, it's very rare. I think it's when people like overdrive them. They get the driver flex with them sometimes. I think the only person I've ever heard that had an issue mildly with it was Mr. Cypress from the forum.
Okay, but the thing with those as well, I mean, we're talking about niche stuff that is unique even within the like audiophile community, but the fact that there are companies making amps and sources specifically for something this
I mean, I have the Jotunheim
unique,
R right here.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like there's sort of a culture around and like an industry that's built around these, especially when they are really good, right? Like especially if it's something that is a little bit like it's super unique, but it's also like really good.
It gave someone a wow moment enough to where they were like, I need this with this now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's pretty cool that there's some collaboration there
I think
among within that space, the unique.
I mean, 'cause technically they're even like, so if you're talking like the Rawl and shit, so the shit Jotunheim R's who did the portable product for this, Rawl makes their own amp for the
and their own converter thing and all that
so
stuff.
it's like they're actually working together with. So I think that's really cool too. I agree. Like, it's such a cool that they do that together.
We got to get Chrono to try the SR1A at some point.
Yeah, what do you think, Chrono?
That would be fun. I would love to. I'm always down to try it.
That's what I always say. Like, I'm always down to try anything.
No, but see, I wonder how the comfort would be for you.
Yeah, they are. They are clamping, man. I mean, look at. this is them naturally hanging. So
do they like? Does the clamp loosen over time, or is it just like that?
It's just the band. So
I figured it's just a metal band.
It's also the weight, like the weight of the, because this is no weight up here, so the weight it just pulls them down into the. So
but they're not heavy.
They're not heavy.
They're
the weight for comparatively to the headband, and it's just a steel band.
Another episode of Chrono's head versus the headband. See who wins.
I like this. This is good. Let's see. Eric asks, should I try the RAL thing if I like the i4? That's maybe for Tyler. What do you think?
If you like, completely different completely different sound signatures. So the i4 is very warm to me, and I want to say, it's like it has LCD warmth. It has that weight to it, right? The RAWs are more like neutral monitors, or like studio monitors, or like a speaker, near field speaker setup, and so they don't really have. They have fast textured bass, I guess, but I wouldn't call it like a bass cannon. They're more about the mids and the highs, I would say.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'd agree. Yeah, like the treble on the RAL is nuts. Like for
The
detail,
detail
it's
and like
crazy.
if you fold them out, you get that staging and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So imaging detail. I would say that if you like the HD800s,
Mm.
the RAW SR1A, or even the Aria or the headphone would be those more align as far as like the imaging detail and treble. But even those, I don't think even the head I'm gonna say this wrong every time, but I
Head
think
audio headphone.
head audio headphone will have more slam, right? I guess, and same with
More dynamics.
yeah, like comparatively. So
depending on the amplifier.
yes,
We have to depending on the amplifier.
Even with the SR1A, like when I run it off of I have dual Vidar mono blocks for it too. I just need to get another preamp for it to get it set up for that again. But when on that, it does change pretty drastically when you run it off of those versus the Jotunheim R. The Jotunheim R is it's almost there and it's convenient because it's
I meant the head of the phone off the amp. But you're right. Like there was a lot of that question as well for the SR1A. And I'm told by many people that there's if you get the dual monoblocks and stuff like that, like it's a game changer as well. Yeah.
Or the S800, the SPL
That's right.
Performer
Yeah.
S800 is like one of the best ones you can get for it. And then
yeah.
I was gonna say the same with the. So I think of the raw SR1A. So this is actually that very niche market, right? So I would actually consider the Susvara a part of that niche market because of the fact that you can get a speaker amp to run the Susvara off of to get it to sound to its best, I guess, or to its optimal performance.
I don't want to say I'm skeptical about that, but I have question marks about that because.
I mean, I haven't heard those scenarios. I'm regurgitating what other people have.
That's I know. Yeah, I've heard that as well. But people said the same thing about the HE6, and then there were a whole bunch of headphone amplifiers developed specifically for the HE6 or to be able to run the HE6, right? Like at its optimal potential or whatever. And I feel like if you're thinking maybe like of traditional amplifiers, maybe then a regular headphone amplifier wouldn't be good enough. But these days headphone amplifiers are so ridiculously powerful because of headphones like the HE6 and LCD4 and Susvara and whatnot that I don't know if it's really necessary to go with the speaker amp. Like with the what was it, the Pro Icon, 14 watts a channel. The iFi Pro Icon, there's no way that won't be able to drive the Susvara. That's overkill even for that. So as much as it is probably one of the most demanding headphones, and you do get like different presentation for dynamics depending on current and whatnot for especially for planars and things like that, and obviously also the AMT from head audio, but it's I don't think anybody is going to feel like there's anything lacking when you give it 14 watts.
Yeah.
Like it's too much. So it's I think it's becoming less and less niche given how much more power there's available for headphone amplifiers these days.
And that's the other piece. Actually, I actually want to talk about this a little bit because we were having that discussion, Andrew, about the phonitor, right? And so I was having this thing. So I have the HD600s in again from Jeremy or JB77, and I plugged them in single-ended to the phonitor, which is different power level. I think they're supposed to be equal, but yeah, I think they're equal, right? For the power for the single end and the balanced. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up, so don't quote me on that.
Oh, sorry, in the phonitor?
Yeah, in the phonitor, yeah.
There's they do the load sensing thing, I think.
And so, but it's funny, off my RME on neutral, like just DAC out only, where it doesn't it's just literally just the DAC. I can crank. I don't have the switches flipped either because I have my camera on top of my phonitor and I'm lazy and I don't want to.
Yep, I know. I know what you mean. Yeah.
But
I don't know if you need the switches flipped for the HD600 though.
But with the RME, I can crank it to full volume and not max out the HD600. With specifically RME. But if I switch to my Bifrost, it's like I'm like, oh god! Like if I don't forget to change the So I always thought that was funny, and I had the same.
What do you prefer it on? Do you prefer it on the Phonitor X or the
HC600?
Yeah.
I like it off my bottlehead.
Oh yeah, no, but if you were to go solid state, like between the RME, the Phonitor, and
I have a Heresy here or a Hell. I have a Hell here.
Oh, okay.
But like honestly, they all sound, the solid states all sound pretty similar. I do think the Phonitor has a little more. It gives it a little more like that black background, I guess, where it just seems a little cleaner. But that's the weird thing about I was thinking about this a little bit today, even. The HD 600, I think personally, my preference. So don't take this as, like, oh, this is the way it is. But the HD 600 to me is better than what I remember the 6XX or the 650. Like, I like the sound, I like personally the sound signature better of the HD 600. I think the 650 is nice for like jazz and that kind of stuff, and because it's so warm in the mid range, and like it has that really warm, like, I don't know, like it seems that as I recall, that's also my recollection, which we all know auditory recollection sucks. But to me, the 600 is faster and cleaner and more neutral, I guess.
That's just because you're a treble head.
Yeah, I'm secretly a treble head.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, but it felt like it just had better dynamics. It seemed like to me. It seemed
interesting.
Like because take it as what it is. I don't have it to compare AB, but it just seemed better to me.
I think there's a lot of people who do prefer it as well, though. Like I don't think you're alone in that.
I prefer the 600 as well.
It seemed less muddy. Like that's what it is. It seemed less muddy.
I can see that. Because the HD6X or 650 HD6XX, that it has like a lower mid, like,
it's like this
hump.
Yeah,
like that's kind of which for certain types of recordings it can be a little bit like it just drowns things out a bit. Which is not ideal. And when I EQ it, I do EQ down that section and then boost the sub bass, so it's a little more like distinct there, I guess. Whereas I don't know if the HD600 has that same issue. But also I was going to say with the HD6XX, with that warmer kind of mid-focused sound, it's funny you mentioned jazz music, because I find that headphones that are warmer, I tend to not like them as much for jazz, because it's like doubling down on that like warm recording anyways, like the warm tones of like jazz guitar, like jazz keyboard and stuff like that, upright double bass, like those are all kind of warm tones to begin with. And I almost want to I almost prefer the HD 600, or like I want to almost like brighten those up a little bit to make them a little bit more lively and not kind of fall into the soup.
and that other thing, someone's like, oh, the 600s are fantastic, and same with the 6XX and the 650. So I'm going to have a couple of things on this real quick. I think that the 600 and the 650 proper, I think, are better built than the 6XX. And not better built in the sense of like actual physically built, but like the polish they put into it, right? Because I think the finish on the plastic is better. It just feels better. The pads are the same.
I haven't had a chance to compare those side by side, so I'm not just totally familiar.
Yeah, I'm just saying, so I'm more talking about like the finish of them, right? Like because the 6XX is just a matte. It's like a matte black or matte blue.
It's kind of like a really dark blue here.
Yeah, matte blue.
It's a midnight blue.
Midnight blue.
But then, like, if you look at so I have the 600 here, they have this like that marble finish on them, marbled finish, and it's the way they finished it. It's like this nice smooth feeling. Yeah, exactly. So you can see the matte, and it's just I'm literally talking about the feel of a thing right now, guys. So don't, But overall, it's the exact same headphone. Well, not the 600 to 6XX, but it's But you know what I'm saying? The same shape, the same more or less parts, the same ear pads. This is different with the way that they did these pads up top.
That's right. Yeah.
But the actual the finish of the coat on it is nice.
What about? But you're talking mostly about like the top headband and then the.
Just like the plastic, all the plastic that's on it, like
the arms and the yoke and stuff like that.
The yoke, the arms.
But the grill should be the same.
Grill's the same.
Yeah.
Everything's. I'm literally talking about the feel of the finish of the plastic, the paint job essentially.
Yeah,
but that's changed. The 600 is not like that anymore.
No, they changed it. They went to black, I think, right?
No, they updated the chassis for the 600 and the 650, so now it's not you see the like smooth. The chassis is now, it has like it has sides to it. It's not like a smooth semicircle.
Wait, so is it worse now or better?
Supposedly. Actually, there's a bunch of purists that are like they won't get the new ones. Yeah,
I was considering buying the 600 though.
Oh yeah,
because I really wanted to have a 600 with me because right now I only have the 6XX, but I kind of prefer the 600. So I was thinking about getting.
I was talking on the Discord a little bit. I was like, I want to get, I now want to get the 600, the 650, and I want to get the HD 700 again, just because I want to have that family. Because I have the HD 800,
Right.
but like, there's just something special about that
Well,
part of the Sennheiser family, I guess, right?
Dude,
Especially
I completely agree. I don't even care about the technical performance with those. I mean, they're definitely excellent in that regard. But for me, they're just like some of the most. They're what got me into the hobby. So for me, they're just magical sounding headphones. You know.
And the other thing I was going to say about that, the 600 and the 650, the 6XX, everyone, like, they are fantastic. They're really good values, but I'm going to be controversial right now. But they get outclassed rapidly.
Uh-oh.
I don't think that's actually as controversial, because there are some people who are, like, let's say HD6XX apologists, who will say that it is the best headphone and you just put it on a $4,000 amplifier and source and you're fine. And the problem with that is that it's a $4,000 setup.
Yeah, with a $200 headphone.
When you consider, like, you know, you can just get a headphone that, you know, like, they scale, yes,
they do
scale.
But
like, at that price, you could just buy a different headphone. Like, you know, even way lower, you could buy at $1,000. You could buy a different headphone. So it's like, how much money are you willing to put into this one headphone in terms of sources and stuff? And I really just think eventually you have to make that sort of value judgment, that assessment, and say, okay, I could do that, or I could just buy a Focal Clear, or I could buy a, you know, HiFiMan Aria LCD2.
Yeah, like
4,000 you could get, like, seriously,
like Stella, you could Utopia, you could get, like, crap, you can get the SR1A combo with you or not.
Yeah.
You can get the
Susvara, you could get,
it doesn't matter what you throw an HD6XX, it's never going to sound like that.
And that's what my point exactly. Yeah, you nailed it. Like, my exact thoughts on it too. Like, even like, you go into, like, I think it's less of a value proposition, but even jump into, like, an Elex or an or even Susvara, not Susvara.
Yeah.
No, sorry. It's on the
you're talking about Sundara.
Sundara, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, even jump into a Sundara, or even like
like
you're gonna get.
You know, I actually think the HD6XX, I think, scales better than the Sundara does, but in order to get it to sound better than the Sundara, you'd need to spend so much money on it that you could buy an Ananda or an Alex or an
Aria,
you know, whatever,
headphone, or like
exactly. I
feel like Sundara versus 600 series stuff is kind of tough, though, because I don't know. I feel like they're very equally matched, given, at least with the same amplifiers because I've tried them.
They're very
with, like,
similar. Yeah.
I feel like they do, you know, exchange blows pretty evenly.
The one thing that always gets me with them, because I do tend to agree. Like, there are certain situations where I feel like the HD6XX has more detail, like in the mids, for example, compared to the Sundara. But what gets me, I mean, we know, like, the bass roll off is a thing with the HD6X0 series, and the Sundara doesn't have the bass roll off.
The Sundara but out of it with bass.
Yeah. But the big thing for me that's an issue with the HD6X0 series is the soundstage, like the limitation on stage, and that, like, sort of like the forwardness of everything. It almost makes me feel like that's partially responsible for the perception of detail, because everything is just, like, driven so much closer to you. Everything's presented much closer to you, so you might feel like there's more detail immediately available there. Whereas if it were wider, you wouldn't maybe get that same sense of it. But then at the same time, it's so lacking in its soundstage that I actually feel like it's not as, like, technically resolving as, like, even a Sundara in that sense, because the Sundara has a more filled in stage. And then you compare it to, like, an Ananda or something else, right? Like, or you know, something else that's better for stage there, and it's like, yeah, that's a huge limitation on those. So one thing I really want to try is the HD6XX and maybe 600 on, like, a really nice tube amplifier, because I think that's where that sort of really magic that Chrono was talking about, that can, I think, really show, and maybe that kind of widens things a little bit and makes it so that it's not as bothersome. Oh, there you go, bottlehead.
That's what I've been listening to all
Or
morning is the
yeah. Well,
bottlehead.
I saw
So
somebody talking about the Felix audio
Felix
stuff as
Audio,
well. We were talking about that
Euphoria,
last
and
time.
the Echo are fantastic with them.
Yeah. So I mean that kind of stuff I absolutely see that kind of synergy, making a certain amount of sense because it fixes that one major issue. And like to me, the soundstage issue with 6XX is so bad that it feels like there's like a wall there and the sound should be there, but it's not. I
Yes.
don't know
But
how else to
couldn't it
describe it
be?
really.
And could it be? Well, I don't know. I have the 660S with
Yeah.
me right now, and that one's a little bit brighter. But
Mhm.
but one of the things that it might be maybe because of the frequency response. Like for example, because it's not as bright, it doesn't feel as spacious. I mean, no, it
Ah,
definitely is not as spacious by default, but it's also hindered slightly by its frequency response.
maybe. I think there's a lot of tricks that happen in frequency response that try and like enhance the sense of soundstage. Like they do, like the HD6XX
Mhm.
has a fairly forward 3K hertz region,
Yep.
and yeah, that might be one of the areas where I mean, if you look at like other headphones that try and fake the soundstage, but they'll dip the upper mids and then get a better sense of stage, and the HD6XX doesn't do that. Um, I don't know. Like I've heard other headphones, like the Sandara is also like it's fairly okay there, like as far as frequency response goes, and they're not that different in that region. And yeah, maybe the 6XX is smoother, but like
But the treble is.
the treble is more. Yeah, there's more treble in the Sandara for sure, but
Mhm.
still, I don't know if that is enough, right? Like I've tried. This is the interesting thing with that the Zen Ken
Thank you.
stuff. Yeah, where they have the
The
3D
special
function, the
button.
widener. Yeah. So that does it brightens it up, but it doesn't just do that. Like it also widens it actually
The 11
because
button, is that right? Is that what they called it? The 11
well, it's
button.
no,
The
it's
turn it to
oh
11
yeah,
button.
yeah, turn it to 11. Yeah, this one
Sorry,
goes to
bad
11.
joke.
Yeah, but because when I EQ'd it to match the or not perfectly match, but to brighten it up like that without the 3D effect, it didn't widen it at all. So I don't think that it's just the frequency response. I think that the brightening effect is the consequence of the widener, not that's what's responsible for enhancing the soundstage with that function.
And someone actually
But
was asking or said a statement, and I think I think we're all in agreement more or less. But like when it comes to value proposition, or like it's so when you start to basically they're saying that they don't think the Verite Open is as good or is 10 times as good as the 600, right? And so with all these things, you're talking about diminishing returns as you get to a certain point, right? Like, but I think that that's where the technicalities come into play, where it depends on what you're looking for in your audio. Like, so if you're looking for those higher technicalities or those higher things,
right,
then the value proposition is what you're looking for. And it's a small. And I was just talking to somebody else about this too, this morning, as a matter of fact, where I was like the I'd say that the majority of audiophiles can stop at probably the $1,000 tier, right? Like in that range, like that second tier, and most of them would be
for
totally
just
happy
the headphone,
for yeah, like well for headphone and gear, like so probably a
for the
grand
whole
total,
system.
yeah, like
Yeah,
and be totally happy. Then you get to like the higher end, more high end stuff, and you can get to like the 25% of people that would be like, oh no, I need to have the Verite Opens, and I need to have the special tube amp. And then there's another 5%, and probably even an even smaller niche. It's like the 1%. It's like
yeah.
that will spend ungodly amounts on to like I know a guy that literally has like speaking of like I'm going to take this one headphone and synergize with it so much. He's on the forum and he did the LCD3 and he
Oh, the LCD
synergized
two
or two
or
three or well, he has an LCD and
okay.
one of them I think it's the 3, but it might whatever. He literally bought like tons of tubes for his KN300B tube amp and like it went through all these tubes until he got the perfect tube matching to the headphone.
Yeah,
Like it's crazy. Like so I mean
actually. Speaking of tubes, I have to address this one comment that I saw where someone says Resolve says that the HD6XX doesn't have much for soundstage, but hasn't tried it on a proper tube amp. So like I've tried it on a tube amp. I've tried it on the Euterpe. But the thing is, like when I say high end, I mean like one of those like Glen OTLs or like you know one like
33s or the
yeah, so, like
the
that's what I'm talking about. To the point where like we're no longer really evaluating the headphone. We're evaluating a system, and the money that you'd spend on that's just what
Mhm.
we were talking about. If you care about soundstage, you wouldn't do that anyways. You
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
You
you
just go
would
get a soundstage
buy
headphone and go.
you would get an Aria or an HD800S or something else, right? Like it
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense. Like yeah, that's not the comparison that we're talking about.
Yeah,
um,
and that's this. Yeah, exactly. Like you're trying to find those. Everyone's gonna find their niche, right? And that's the thing. Like everyone's gonna have
yeah.
their audiophile kink.
On like 95% of the setups out there for people who are using the HD6XX, it's not going to have a lot of soundstage.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you're using it with, again, like one of these tube amplifiers or
But even then though, man, like because I've listened to the 6XX off of a pretty high end. I've listened. It's they're just not a soundstage headphone. Like at the end of the day.
Okay, so last Rhino says it, you know, a wah 3 for $600 is enough to make the HD600 amazing. That literally just costs $600. Okay, but $600, that's almost the cost of a Hi-Fi Man and Nanda. If you care about soundstage,
Yeah.
you know, why wouldn't you just do that? I don't. It doesn't make any sense to me why you would spend, plus the headphones themselves. That's like $900, right? Or I'm not sure how much is the HD600 right now.
Oh, they're like $200 to $300, I think.
Yeah,
I think
so that ends up being like $900. So
yeah, but
like,
there's still soundstage aside. There's still a pretty good argument.
Oh no, yeah, like
oh totally. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying like that's again, we're talking about niche stuff.
Niche stuff, yeah.
that fits into that category.
Yeah. Like I'm in agreement. I think that the 600 is a fantastic headphone. The especially when you look at how old they are. Like that's the thing. Like,
oh yeah,
totally. It's crazy how good these things have been for decades. Like literal decades.
Here's a question for you guys: is the HD600 wider in soundstage or larger, more spacious than the HD650? Because I haven't actually heard them. I haven't compared them like one right next to the other.
I'm once again, I'm going off of memory, but I want to say off memory that the 600, I think because of the cleaner sound, like where it doesn't have that muddiness to
the bass,
yeah, stuff,
or the mid, lower mid.
You talk about, what you just talked about. I think that gives it that perception of being wider.
Okay, but because I was trying to compare, because the 6XX compared to the HD660S, it's basically the same for soundstage. Like I don't think there's a significant advantage there for the HD660S. So, but soundstage again, that's something that like it's really difficult for people.
Well, someone needs to talk about it. How do you hear soundstage?
Because so much of that is dependent on the mixing and mastering and whatever you're listening to. But then also like people have their own unique in-head localization for things. So like where you hear the placement for different images and whatnot is different for everybody. So, you know, I might say, okay, this has a really wide soundstage, and like maybe there's some agreement there, but there's always going to be that one person who's like, I don't hear like that. Or however many people are like that, right? Because they don't have the same in-head localization that you do, and that's just part of the
hobby.
Well, I was gonna say it's part of the HRTF.
It's
right,
because the way your anatomy is, the way the sound waves hit, and
exactly, the brain's correction for whatever is going on, and then your brain localizes it, right? So, so all of that plays a factor, and that's why I think there's a lot of question marks for soundstage and how people perceive it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Do I have them?
All right, he's saying that the 600 on a setup for $900 beats LCD4 at 4,000 or Utopia at 4,000. Yeah, that's just false. That like for detail, I don't think you can get like disregarding soundstage. That's just not it's not going to be as detailed.
MVH Sermid. You know who I'm talking to. I get it. I see it.
That took us a while.
Here's the pilot pad on the Aeolus. It's the same style. I put it on the band below. A lot of people will take the band off and put it up here, but I found this is really comfy. But you have to really extend them out to get it to fit. But that's sorry. I just wanted to answer that real quick because I had it. Yeah. And it works fantastic. I think it's one of the greatest, like comfort wise, especially when I do the suede on suede crime.
Suede on suede crime.
I call them my cushy boys. They're very soft. I wouldn't necessarily wear them right now because it's hot, but they're fantastic.
What was that, Chrono?
Those look incredibly comfortable.
They are very, very comfortable. They're like big pillows. They just
I do worry about like the effect of suede on like certain categories like dynamics and things like that. I wonder, because to me, uh, I've definitely had situations where like because of a headphone's design, the like for example the Night Owl, it punches decently well with the leather pads, but you put the suede pads on and it's just gone. There's no dynamics whatsoever. So it makes me
I
wonder
mean,
like
that
is
is
that
covered on ZMF's
ZMF does his ZMF
pad.
his head
Yeah,
oh he
pad.
does okay that's cool
yeah, he does
yeah
mention that in the pad rolling guide.
He actually
that they
gives
have on the
his
website.
his descriptions of each, right? Like so
Yeah.
he'll actually say how it affects the sound and how it. And so that's actually one of the best. I'm a big fan of his little pad rolling thing.
yeah I have the
I have the little card. Yeah, I was gonna say I have the card.
Yeah, I have it
somewhere.
here. Yeah. I need to get back into doing the ZMF pad roll experiments because I started it, and so I got a number of them measured and impressions on it, but I don't have all of them. That's the thing. I'm missing like 4 of them, I think, or 3 of them.
Here,
There we
I
go.
have the BE2 hybrids, or yeah, BE2 hybrids with the
See, that's the one I don't have. The BE2 hybrids. I got BE2 suede and leather, but not BE2 hybrids.
There, Android swears by the BE2 hybrids. I think it's hybrids. BE2. He likes the BE2s, but I think he really likes the hybrids too. But it's
Yeah.
For me, like I like them, but I think I prefer they're shallow, and so like my ears aren't massive by any means, but like you can see they're getting red because these are hot. But
Yeah.
they're I still prefer like the universe perforated. As my
We start the stream.
yeah. Or you want to swap, or it's back. We're getting.
Yeah,
I'm getting. I'm
you're
back,
back,
up
I think.
now. Yeah. Okay, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Comcast has been a beast for me this past 2 days. They've been dropping service like crazy.
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, so
I'm all
getting back
paranoid.
on track here with the niche stuff. Is there any other niche stuff that you guys can think of that's
People who plug a 6XX into their Xbox controller because they were told.
does
they
that
were
even
for
work?
Gaming?
Yes and
Probably
no.
not. Probably not. I mean, they probably sound weird and not enough volume.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not enough volume. I use these for gaming every once in a while. Little Supporter Pros.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but those are
These
dope and they
these
actually
great.
work.
They work really good for gaming, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll run off a Switch. Breath of the Wild will sound great.
Yeah,
Probably,
Yeah, that's why I use that
yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Niche. Trying to think. Really niche market would be. I mean, obviously, tube amps are a really niche market too when you think about it.
They are, but there's a heritage there that I
That's
think
true.
a lot of people, especially like if you're like from the, let's say, older audience, not older as in like age, but like if you've been into this for a long time and
Mhm.
you've got a
You
chance to try a lot
gravitate.
of this, yeah, there's definitely some tube lovers out there.
That's actually interesting too. Like it's funny how people, the longer they're in the hobby, I've noticed that too. They tend to gravitate slowly to tubes
Because the
they-
first thing you buy is like the most value bang for the
Bang.
buck thing, and then you look for transparency in a source, and then you're looking at solid state stuff,
Yeah.
and then further on, the further you go, you start to
You hear these magical
value the
words
tube
and
stuff.
like.
Yeah. The BE2 and Verite backing is too
Yeah.
thick.
So it's
On
the
the
it's a
the
really
back
thick
part of the
foam.
pad.
Inside the pad itself, like
Yeah.
don't mind my but yeah, this is thick. It's really thick pad. It's a big foam thick pad, whereas ZMS other stuff is like a cloth, like a stretchy cloth.
Yeah. Martin says e-stats are a niche for most. I tend to agree, because for I mean there's a price barrier to entry there, unless you're talking about the one from Cost, which is fairly inexpensive, I think. And really good like detail for the money, I guess. But for the stack stuff, right?
I think anytime you have a dedicated amp or you have to have a dedicated hardware,
the Energizer,
like that's when you get niche. niche.
So it's
niche.
very expensive to begin with, but then it's also like it only pairs with other, like you can only use e-stat with an Energizer. You can't use it with a regular amplifier. So I definitely agree. E-stats are on the more niche side of things. I was going to say, there was, when we went to Can Jam this year, when Can Jams were still happening, and we were talking with Sankar from Odyssey, and he happened to have those. He was just trying them out. He just brought them with him, but he had those human ears, I think they're called, the like black.
Were they on a necklace and he wore them around his neck?
No, like they're Yeah,
Sorry.
he's got human ears that he's holding. And he's like, yeah, these are from the people that I just killed.
Yeah.
No,
Sorry.
no. If he's watching this, I'm sorry, Sank. No, he had they're called the human ears. I think they're called human ears, but they're these like they just sort of like hang out. They don't have a
Yes,
headband
I've
or
seen them.
anything.
They're little black.
They're these, yeah.
And you,
They look like rocks,
pods, like weird little pod thing,
polished
yeah.
rocks,
Like
yeah, like
pebbles.
pods, yeah, yeah. So that's pretty niche.
That's pretty
Yeah.
niche.
I really don't know. Like they look like what you'd wear like to keep your ears warm in the winter, like if you're rich,
Like
you know, like that.
I know
That's
exactly
what
what we're talking about. The little earmuffs that are like, the,
yeah, yeah.
I think my daughter has some.
Yeah,
They're pink,
but
and fluffy.
yeah, I those ones I don't know how well they actually did. I think they kind of didn't.
I
do
haven't
that
heard
great
much.
on them. Yeah,
So they probably
but yeah, they made some waves, I think, but I think it's one of those things as well where it looks so strange, even though like headphone aesthetics in general are not like something people are
Mhm.
really doing all that well, in my opinion. Like there's some that look really really nice, but there's some that just look totally ridiculous. And so to make this stuff more accessible and not as unique, there's a certain familiarity, I think, with what headphones are supposed to look like. That I mean, it's getting skewed more and more by brands like Bose and Beats that are doing this, but because that's just what you see all the
That
time.
sleek cyberpunk look
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
Well,
But
kind of looks, they sort of resemble
Vocal's
Beats.
fantastic, man. I think
oh yeah, Focal is, but that is what we're talking about, right? Like that's what people expect
Mhm.
high-end headphones to look like, right? Rather than something like the human ears or whatever the thing was. It
Leeches
might
that be
look
put on your
sleek,
ear.
but it's just so foreign. Like yeah, it just looks so
like
odd.
two giant leeches that you just slap on your ear. And...
What?
Yeah.
That's strange. Like for me, rather things like Beats don't look high end because they're so common. I feel like
Yeah.
for whatever it is, not just headphones. That
But there's a
if
prestige to
something's gonna be expensive, yeah. If something's gonna be expensive, it has to one feel like it has prestige. Two, doesn't necessarily have to be good, and three, look incredibly eccentric. That's usually what.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what brands, Louis Vuitton, Gucci. They make some ridiculous looking stuff that
Yeah.
unless you own it, you wouldn't think about wearing it.
There's definitely an element of like this thing makes people pay attention, for one reason or another. Oh, did we lose Tyler again?
Am I dropping? Oh no, I just
Tyler's internet is
yeah, did it drop? I think I'm back. But like these, I think are ridiculous looking. Yeah, it says I'm good. I did drop a couple frames there, but I think we're back up to normal ish.
okay.
But yeah, I think the Stelia though. I think if they would have done a more like the Elysia colorway, they would have been. I think those would look freaking pristine, or even like a carbon fiber, like the Utopia with the Stelia.
Oh yeah, I love that look. Yeah. But yeah, as far as like niche stuff goes, I think that's definitely like the look for a lot of this stuff is the barrier, I think, and unfamiliarity. That's why a lot of it ends up being a little bit more niche. Because again, I think if you think about people who aren't as into this hobby, like a more general audience, they'll see stuff like an Odyssey LCD, any Odyssey LCD, and they'll go, "What is that?" Or anything from Hi-Fi Man. It's like that is ridiculous looking. Even though for us, it's like, it's just Odyssey LCD. It looks great. Like or Hi-Fi Man looks fine, looks normal. So I think the Sandaro looks fantastic, right? But for anybody who's has a certain idea in their mind of what like headphones should look like, or should be, then it's a little bit foreign.
And that's ultimately the biggest, I think, the biggest barrier of entry for a lot of people, like you just said, is that.
Yeah.
Most people are used to Beats or Bose or Sony.
Yeah.
Just show them the headphone; they'll fall in love with them immediately. The head audio headphone, that is.
Yeah. So put that on a bunch of athletes.
Can you imagine they're out all the track stretching with that?
Yeah.
A video of Lady Gaga in the studio using that to monitor. Yeah, the headphone.
Anyways, I think we've exhausted the niche, unique subject, but I did have another subject that I randomly thought about the other day while I was deep into some whiskey. Best headphones for ASMR.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was
what do you guys think?
LCD Force.
I'm gonna disagree with you.
Hold
Yeah.
up, I have a question. Wait, this is very important. It's like
Okay.
ASMR, like you're sitting relaxing, or ASMR you're trying to fall asleep?
Well,
I don't know because I'm not actually into ASMR. It
Yeah, I
doesn't.
don't.
It has no effect on me, which is surprising because I, you know, am an audiophile and care about
Well,
the way things sound. But I don't have the reactions people do. But I know there's a lot. Like I've actually had people ask me that. You know, like
It creeps me
say like
out,
I'm
honestly.
really into ASMR, and so then I want to know what the best headphones are for this, and like I'm like I don't know because
Honestly,
I'm not.
someone just
Yeah,
mentioned the IEMs. Like I was trying to think
it
about
could
this,
be.
and I would
Yeah.
say IEMs would be because it's like direct in your ear. But you'd want an IEM that has at least somewhat of a wider soundstage, right? So maybe the new Andromeda 2020 because it's smooth, you won't get the pops. Maybe I don't know.
I mean, if we're talking like best, like there's that new. I mean, I haven't heard the Empire Ears Odin yet, so
Oh
I
yeah,
can't really pass judgment on that. That's supposed to be like the best new IEM. There's a few out there that are really high end like that.
$3,500 or
Yeah,
something like that to fall asleep?
yeah.
I'd rather just take
Uh,
melatonin at that
So
point.
maybe that would be best for because IEMs do satisfy the like being able to relax thing. Whereas like that was going to be my counter argument there, like, Chrono with the you said the LCD4. I'm like, is anybody going to really enjoy it with like a
but then,
800-gram brick
have
on
you
their
ever
head?
have you ever fallen asleep with like IEMs in your ears though? I've done it once or
I
twice on
don't
accident.
know.
I just because you listen to music and late at night and I usually take them out, but I fell asleep. I've fallen asleep a couple times that way, and I
Yeah.
always wake up with the worst ear pain in the world.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so like
Actually,
Yeah,
Ma-
me too. Even that's with AirPods.
yeah.
Martin makes a good point here. ASMR is nice with a headphone,
Yeah, because
phone.
the staging, yeah.
It's yeah, and it is fast and for the treble detail and stuff like that. That would be one of my picks for sure.
I'm gonna say
But
Stelia to be honest, because it's closed and you have
oh yeah,
that
closed. Actually, that
and,
makes a big
and more
difference.
You're
intimate,
forgetting
and
the
then
fear that you're gonna break it if you fall asleep factor.
What do you mean?
Like,
Well, no, because the with the head to the phone, you lie there and it like just holds your head in place. You
yeah,
can't move anywhere.
it's just these
yeah, but
two,
what are you?
this-
What are
it's
you
like
those
those
people who
blocks,
move
those
a
head
lot?
block pillows. You see the big block that your head fits in and just
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but
what it
if
is.
you're, what if you're one of the people who moves a lot? You end up crushing it overnight.
yeah.
No, it'll crush you.
It'll
This
crush
is the
you, yeah.
battle. This is the battle.
Wait, I mean, I'm in the middle of my battle right now. I'll let you know
Yeah.
the results by the end of the stream.
the Chrono headphone tug of war.
We're 70 minutes in. I'm doing this. I'm doing
Yeah.
this.
It's funny.
I
Yeah.
I think my answer for best for that would be a Hi-Fi Man headphone. I think it would be the Susvara or the Stax. Well, okay, my answer would probably be the Shangri-La Senior because I heard that at CanJam and it was like ridiculously detailed and stuff. But I mean, like nobody really can have access to something like that on a regular basis. Maybe the Junior, I'd have to try that one, but yeah, for
But wait,
normal.
Because this is for
What's that?
for me, I think I want something super vocal forward, right? So I'm thinking,
Well, but isn't there a lot of like pops and stuff?
well, it's because they're it's the pops from the like
You
the
want that crisp
spittle
kind of
and
like
the-
texture. That's gross. But you want all the texture and stuff in the treble frequencies, right? Like, isn't that like one of the elements? You need that like what S baffers
they
used to
do.
call plankton.
Chrono, tell me
Dude.
more. Let me rub my beard into the.
Wait,
All
oh,
right,
no.
it's getting a little funky here. Chill out. I have the headphone on. Okay. It's,
Yeah,
I know we're
you can.
testing. We're testing
Yeah.
this. Martin said.
We're trying Martin's.
Yeah.
What's it called? But it's like, but at the
See,
same
you got
time,
excited. I heard the
you
awe.
mentioned, stop. You mentioned clarity, right? But it's a lot of the people who like watching ASMR are also more into lo-fi, so they enjoy like the
Oh.
grain and the vinyl sort of, the going on in the background, so they don't like high fidelity.
But you would need something with decent dynamics at least.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do agree.
So Focal. Let's go Focal clear.
See, I
Focal
I
clear
still
for
think the
ASMR.
Stelia, man, because you get that
Or
closed
Stelia
back,
because you get
and then
yeah.
you get because it still has that detail and imaging where you
Yeah.
can get those like small little, and it's fast, so like you can get
Mhm.
those things, and then it has the low end too to some degree, like that little bump of warmth over like the Utopia.
My
where-
other answer was going to be the Final Audio D8000 Pro, and then I like
Not-
more people need to hear that. I
not
think 'cause
the- Go ahead.
I was just gonna say more people. I think more people need to. We've been sleeping on the Final Audio D8000 Pro. It's really really good.
That's a really nice TIE fighter you have over there.
What now?
Tyler,
Oh, behind us.
he has a TIE fighter. It looks really cool. Is that the Ultimate Collector Series TIE fighter?
Down there?
It looks really nice. Is that Lego?
Yeah, TIE Fighter Lego. I have an X-wing next to it, and then
Man, that's sick.
I have the AT-AT in another room, and I have the Slave One. Actually, the Slave One I have is the collector's like really expensive one.
So somebody suggested we include ASMR testing in our videos now. So we have Tyler do the test, and I'll react to it live on the video.
I don't know if I have the right microphone for that.
Yeah, I don't think I have the right microphone for it. Yeah. So these, I was gonna say, detail wise,
the 8000. Yeah.
These things, like, Andrew's got to listen to my first hot take on these. So the first two tracks I heard on these, I was like, wow, these are detailed and really sound really good. And he was like, really? And then I was talking to Android at the same time, and he was like, dude, you're a boomer now. Like, what the hell? Like, and I was like, what are you talking about? Because I have no idea. Like, I've never heard any reviews. I was like purely going in blind with these. And then I was like, these sound great. Like, I was trying to confused by it. And then all of a sudden the next few tracks came on, and I was like, these peaky, like, I think you saw, I was like, oh, and it triggered my tinnitus. Like, all of a sudden I had tinnitus for like an hour after taking these out for like 10 songs. I was like, and nothing bad, but it was like that little, and I was like, damn it. But they look fantastic. Yeah.
It's the 5K hertz peak on that just kills me.
Yeah. It was
or like around 5K, something like that, 5.5 maybe.
And it could have been a little bit of a bias too, because once you guys mentioned it, that's when all of a sudden, like, but it could also just been the tracks that I was listening to initially were very not treble heavy. They were very mid and low focused.
There's definitely times like with that A8000 that I have one here as well, but it for some tracks it works perfectly.
Yeah, it was like
anything that's a little bit more relaxed at like 5K hertz. And maybe like there's two issues. One is around 5K hertz. The other issue is in the around 10K hertz, like that shimmer region. And the weird thing is when you EQ the A8000, it does not take the EQ. Like you can do whatever you want to 10K hertz, and it never goes away. It's like I don't know what
EQ.
I know. And even when I because I was measuring this, right, and I'd keep adjusting it, and there's something that shows up at 10K no matter what I do. So I don't know what's going on there.
Did somebody say EQ?
Oh my god. My nipples got so hard just now.
See, my secret is that they're always like that.
Oh no. Oh no.
This is definitely not going to be a clean podcast.
Completely off topic, but apparently new Call of Duty in a week, apparently.
Oh, that's quick.
Well, it's fall, so that's about right. Once a year, right?
Yeah, but it used to come out in September, October, and November, but now it's August.
Well, don't they do some like promotion for that stuff?
No, they usually promote like a month or two out. Yeah.
Yeah, but they just put it out this weekend. It says this week.
Ooh,
that's crazy.
Ghost of Tsushima is getting co-op and a raid.
I won't care unless they have it on PC.
If I had a PlayStation, I would be your side.
Yeah, exactly.
I literally bought a PlayStation for that game, so I can't.
Okay. I was gonna wait until like the next generation, like the next stuff comes out, because I've never owned consoles, and now that the pandemic's hit, I'm like, well, maybe it's a good idea.
Oh, I'm waiting for that Nvidia announcement.
Yeah, that's the other one, man. Like, that's
the new graphics cards.
Yeah, the 3000 series.
3000.
Get on that.
Yeah, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. They said August 26th. I wonder if that's a reveal or if they're actually putting it out.
Probably reveal. Yeah, they wouldn't drop it right away.
It's crazy. It's a reveal.
Here's a good question. How good is the Final Audio D8000 Pro? Contemplating between that and Utopia.
I don't have experience with the D8, but I know you do.
So I'm gonna say like flat out the D8000 Pro is more detailed than the Utopia, which is gonna sound crazy because Utopia is really detailed, but I think it is. The Utopia I think is they're both really good for frequency response, but I think the Utopia is actually a little warmer than the D8000 Pro. The D8000 Pro has better bass extension, but the Utopia is going to be a little bit more like, for the rest of its frequency response, is a little bit more like Harman 2013. But the soundstage is pretty similar, so neither of them are like super spacious in that sense. But I do think that the D8000 Pro is a more technically capable headphone. The problem with the D1000 Pro is that the comfort is not that great. Like even though it's not super heavy, it's only like 550 grams, I think. It's well, I say only, like that's still heavy. The way that the pads are designed, they're circular, right? And I guess they are, well, no, they're kind of oval on the Focal ones, but the circular pads kind of make it so that it doesn't fit the greatest for me. Like if I were to get the D8000 Pro, I'd have to use something like the ZMF pilot pad that Tyler has there, just because it needs a suspension strap for comfort, I think.
I think anything with like a narrow
Yeah,
band,
yeah.
like it's
And because it's not light, it's heavy, but it's still really, really good. And so it would be worth it, I think, if you got the pilot pad. Yeah, that would do it. But both, I mean, you can't really go wrong with the Utopia either. Like I think again, the Utopia is probably a little bit more balanced there. Like people for some reason think that the Utopia is bright, and it's not. Like if you look at the way that it measures on like every standardized measurement rig, like it's not as perfectly well extended in the base, but it's not bad. Like it's not like it's a significant roll off.
But is it like the clear though, where it isn't like overall bright but just peaky?
the Utopia.
No. Actually, the Utopia is more filled in than the clear. Like the treble on the Utopia is better.
Yes.
Because it doesn't have that 6K hertz issue, and it doesn't have the 8K
Okay.
hertz issue. Yeah, so it's not as peaky there. I'm not sure about 10K hertz though. I'd have to reevaluate that, because that was kind of an eye opener on the clear with the 10K hertz like drop that you found, Chrono. Like dropping that like made it so the timbre was a lot more natural sounding. But I'd have to try that with the Utopia as well.
Yeah, I keep messing around with the EQ for the clear.
Yeah.
Every other week.
Yeah. But the mids on the clear are my favorite part. It's
absolutely fantastic.
Wonderful mids.
I love them, yeah.
Yeah. Did we lose Tyler again?
Yeah, I saw a little stream, but it looks like it's good. I'm watching. Yeah, it's watching. It's weird. Like it's on my everything else. It looks fine, but on YouTube, also randomly, it just starts spinning. So it's weird.
That's weird. Yeah. Looks like we're still here though.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm watching the drop frames. We don't have any drop frames or anything like that. It's just every once in a while YouTube like hiccups and I get the spinny, so I'm not sure what's going on. But so we're kind of now into the realm of moving to the Q&A, right? I think.
Yeah, let's do some Q&A. Drop your guys' questions in the chat if you. Yeah.
I think so. They're asking about Qobuz versus like Tidal versus. Well, I guess those are only two real big ones. But like to me, I think the way I rank the streaming services is I use Spotify for all my music discovery, because it has just the biggest library, and also for just general use listening. And it's easy to. I have like a lot of playlists there, and I have a bunch of friends and family that share playlists, and that's why I have Spotify, mostly friends and family, and then the music discovery. And I think it comes with my T-Mobile. But then I had Tidal for a bit. And then I switched to Qobuz when it came to the US. And I think for the difference between... So Qobuz to me has the best sound quality, but the worst library as far as like what they have available. And then I think that... and then with Tidal, it splits the difference between Qobuz and Spotify, where it has not quite as good a sound quality as Qobuz, but better than Spotify, but way better... library than Qobuz, but not as good as Spotify. So like the Tidal's like the split the difference between the two. But yeah, then I guess really just comes down to what you're looking for with those ones. But what's your guys' take? I think I found going from Tidal to Qobuz, I noticed a big difference, and from Spotify to Qobuz I noticed a pretty big difference in quality. But then it's also the different ranges that you get from there too, though, and obviously losses.
I think Qobuz is nuts in terms of quality. It's just
it's bananas.
It's just really good. And then there's also Qobuz through Rune.
Rune is
much better than just Qobuz alone. But there is a problem though. Like they have like the smallest selection of music available. Aside from that, I used Tidal for a bit, but I was like, well, if I'm gonna be paying for like a hi-fi plan, Yeah, and I tried it with versus Cobas, and Cobas just sounded better to me. So I was like, well, I'll
Well,
go with
Cobas
it.
you get 24-bit high res, like 96K, whatever.
You
If
get
that's even
192.24 on some of them.
yeah. If that even makes a difference, I think the biggest thing is you're not using the 320 OGG codec from Spotify or Tidal. I think that's the biggest thing, right? You're actually getting like lossless. Oh, did I lose?
I'm on
You
No,
mute.
guys
I
still?
think Tyler's muted.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
know.
like learning that like not all 320 is the same. Like even though 320 is good enough for most setups and most systems, the fact that not all 320 is the same is good enough to make it so that it's worth it to go for the high res streaming service. Because if you're using Spotify, you're getting, well, it's not probably not the worst 320, but it's definitely not as good as like Tidal. And then the player itself makes a difference too. So going through
Yeah.
Rune like that is even with Tidal, like that's I've been noticing it, like using Tidal with Rune, it's just better.
Yeah, no, before the stream, I was listening to Cobas through Rune. And
Yeah,
then
Koba
when we
through
started
Rune is the
streaming,
best. Yeah,
now I have some, chill jazz in the background
yeah,
through just the Rune, not the Rune, sorry, through Koba's app. And Koba's through Rune sounds, well, I would say noticeably better, but then again, probably not a huge difference.
yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you're, this is only something I've really cared about with like really revealing headphones, like
Yeah.
really detailed headphones. I don't like if I'm listening to like maybe with the LCD XC or the LCD4 here, like Focal Clear sure is Yamaha Verite, but Sundara, probably like the HD660S, stuff like that. I'm not as worried. I'd be happy to use Tidal or Spotify all day long, even though maybe they do benefit from it. It's just that the benefit isn't as tangible.
Yeah, like when it comes to the audio quality, I think that should be one of the last things you're probably. Well, that's not true.
Oh, as long as it's good enough.
As long as it's good, yeah. Like, because at the end of the day, that is the sword. Like that's garbage in, garbage out kind of concept, right? Like you want to make sure at least it's a quality stream or FLAC or what have you, but like or recorded properly, I guess would be the better way to say that. But yeah, I would say the headphone first, amp, DAC, music quality stream.
I see a couple more questions here. Let's see. Any plans to review the Ether Flow or Ether C Flow? So I've actually had one here not that long ago, and yeah, I don't think I'm gonna review it necessarily. I might review it if I have like a reason to do like a closed back shootout or something. Maybe we'll include that. But my general take on it is that like for detail, I think the Aeon 2 is like at least as good. So I don't know what the real advantages of the Ether. I think the Ether C, like the closed back Ether, probably has a little better soundstage than the Aeon 2, but and maybe better dynamics. I don't know, but yeah, in my opinion, the Aeon 2 was more detailed. I think it takes yeah. The main benefit of going with the Dan Clark Audio headphones is that they maximize comfort to performance, right? That's kind of the like design and comfort are like right up there for like values. So you get something that you can wear for all day. But on that subject, I did find that the Ether C, the closeback, was a bit too clampy over time, whereas the Aeon 2, while it was initially a little bit clampy, it went away. The clamp wasn't as much of a problem. So that's kind of my take on it. And then yeah, they're not the most punchy or dynamic sounding headphones for any of them really. And then another question here, I see what is an IEM that sounds like the 600 series from Sennheiser, I assume. Tyler, do you have any thoughts on an IEM that sounds like the 600 series?
See, here's one of the things I've been trying to struggle with this a little bit. I saw that too, and I was trying to think about it, and I was kind of thinking it's kind of unfair to try to like shoehorn like other headphones into sounding like other headphones. The more IEMs kind of do.
I know what you mean.
Like it's tough to like say that, because then also like for my own preference, and I'm also not a big IEM guy, so I don't have that much experience with IEMs. But I will say that if the The new Andromeda 2020 would be like I think personally is a slightly better one. I'm actually really enamored with that new 2020, the Andromeda. I think it's really good. But I would say maybe, and you have heard this one, and this is me based off of just other people's experiences, but maybe the Blessing 2, would that be?
Yeah, actually, there's a number of them that I'd say. I mean, again, I don't think I tend to agree with
Like-
Tyler on that. It's like that the whole like pigeonholing it one to sound like another. It's tough to really make that comparison. But yeah, they think the Blessing 2, that's the thing though. Like the Blessing 2 actually has, in my opinion, it's fully extended in the bass, so it doesn't have the bass roll up, but it's just like slightly different.
The Legacy 3, I just heard that recently, and I thought that was pretty fantastic.
I haven't heard that one.
That was impressed with that. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily same lines of a 600, but it was nicer.
Yeah,
it had a nicer flow to it, I guess.
My pick would be the Blessing 2. The only real difference there is that the Blessing 2 has a little bit more of impactful bass, which is a good thing, and also it's not as smooth in the treble. Whereas the Sennheiser series is more smooth in the treble. But on top of it, like the HD 600 and 6XX, they have more detail. Like if you put that on a good amp, again, like what we're talking about, like, okay, not like crazy high end, but like a decent amp, like, something that's like $200, $300. Yeah, they have more detail. And so it's just like, the barrier there for IEMs, I think. But
I got the answer.
What is that? Bark? I haven't heard that one.
I've never heard. It's still unopened. I was just.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to ruin any surprises, but you have the IT by Basso.
Oh yeah, the IT00. That's great. So yeah, I'll be doing a comparison between the IT00 and the Starfield and the KXXX. So like the comparison between the Starfield and the KXXX from Moondrop, that's really interesting to me because they have a identical frequency response, but they're using different materials for the diaphragm, or the different coating for the diaphragm, and they're both using single dynamic driver. So the fact that they have an identical frequency response but are using different materials this is a nice little eye opener that is indicating that maybe they're like, when we're looking at the frequency response, if it sounds different, this is a hypothesis that I'd love to kind of go further into, because they measure exactly the same. And my initial take is actually that they do sound a little bit different. The KXXX, in my opinion, has more detail in the upper treble, like it's more detailed in the, like, say you hear a cymbal crash in the sizzle character there, whereas with the Starfield, that is more of a weak point. Even though they're both really well extended there, it's more of a weak point. And then the Starfield might be a little bit more like lower mid focus there. But they both sound very similar. Same, obviously, it's the same tonality, exactly the same. Compared to the IT00 though, the IT00 is I think potentially more balanced overall for its sound signature, because the IT00 doesn't have the same slight shrillness there to the upper mids that the, like, 3 to 5k hertz is a little bit forward there. Maybe like not 5k hertz, but like 3k hertz is a bit forward there, I find, on the Starfield. So with the IT00, it's not as well extended in the upper treble, but it's more balanced for the rest of it, if that makes sense. At least to my ear, right? I think there's some people who really like that forwardness of the Starfield and the KXXX in the mid-range. But for me, I think overall, I prefer the IT00's overall total balance, even though it's not as detailed and it's not as technically capable. So like if I had to pick one, it would probably be the KXXX, but I think that is also the most expensive one. And then, if I just cared about, tonal balance and stuff like that, I think the IT00 is like at least as good, if not a little bit better. So yeah, and I don't need to make that video, I guess, anymore.
Done.
No, I'm just kidding.
we could just cut this part out. You could edit and then.
Yeah. Sorry, I saw another question in there that was someone was asking, what are your thoughts on electrostatic headphones?
I don't think
Yeah,
for me
it's
personally.
there's a huge drawback with most electrostatic headphones. Again, in my experience, I'm not the most experienced with this stuff, but I have heard a number of them now. And from what I'm aware of, there's only one. Well, there's potentially two, but I haven't heard the Voce, so I don't know about that. But of the electrostats that I've heard, there was only one that had good sub bass extension there, and that was the SR007 2.9 from Stax. Now, that doesn't mean that like sub bass is not all there is, right? Like that's not the most important thing. I think it's actually not even as important as I think some people make it out to be. But when you compare the fact that or when you think about the fact that there's now at around the same price, you can find planar magnetic headphones that have perfect bass extension, and they're also getting to the point where they're like on the level for detail. I think the electrostatic headphone needs to be a really good one, right, in order for that to be worth it over the planar magnetic nanoscale planar magnetic headphones. Stax Omega 2 S. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's Flux, of course. So while they're like super detailed and stuff, at least from the ones that I've heard, and potentially you get more detail than the price when you compare it across transducer types. At the same time, they generally don't have as good bass performance. At least the ones that I've heard, apart from the SR007 2.9. So, which in my opinion is absolutely worth it. So I still want to hear the junior, like the Shangri-La Junior. And I think that'd be a really interesting comparison, between the Shangri-La Junior and the SR007 2.9. But I mean, there's the flip side of it too, is that like if all you really care about is detail for certain types of music, the SR009 is probably going to give you that, because this is just like what some of the manufacturers have been saying, and I know it's what Sean All's been saying as well, that typically if you have less bass, the perception of detail is enhanced because now you're paying attention to everything going on in the mids and treble, which is where most of your information is anyways. Most of your finer grained information is. So for people who care about that or prioritize that, I think it's great. But personally, like I would rather have like a Susvara or LCD GX or something that has really good bass extension, on top of being highly detailed as well.
Yeah, there's the new Hive the Nectar Hive. That's pretty interesting. It's and people have been really liking that a lot. Well, people, I mean the random couple of people in our forum and Discord that have it. And it sounds interesting. And then and that one actually supposed to have a little bit of an elevation of the bass bump. Supposedly, it's a little bit warmer.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I know the Voce was supposed to be warmer as well, right? Like from Dan Clark Audio, but I haven't heard that one, so I can't. There's a lot of. That's the thing. Like, there's more out there that I haven't heard, so I can't. Like, don't take my opinion here as like a blanket, fact or anything. This is just like from my experience of what I've heard so far. That's been my experience. Like the Shangri-La Senior was amazing, but like that's probably the most exciting, like detail crazy headphone I've ever heard in my life. But at the same time, I don't know if I would take that over a Susvara, because I like the bass extension of the Susvara, right? So at that point, it's not all about detail, I think, as well.
That ties into a couple things I was talking with somebody about, and talking to some people that have like a lot of Total gear currently.
Yeah.
And like
Total being top of the line.
Yeah, sorry, top of the line. And asking them like what their daily use cases, and a lot of them were like, I just throw on my Verite opens or my Verite close, or some of them were like, I just wear my Cost Porta Pros, or like, and you're like, but you have like $6,000 worth of chain right there, and like it's funny, but like it's funny how like some people like it's just because it's just so easy to just throw on something that's just it's good for just putting on, listening to music, and just going, like letting it go. I think that's an interesting topic. We could always talk about that another time. But I think that was an interesting, like, kind of like, oh, really? Like, that's what you're like. So, like, kind of like I always talk about, like the guilty pleasure type of thing, or like the
Well, yeah. I think another thing to factor into this is so like I've really been enjoying the LCD XC,
see. Mm-hmm.
the two letter, and like I've been trying to make it so that I can tolerate the weight because I want to buy it because it's that good. I want to be okay with wearing it as for that same purpose as the daily driver, the thing you just commonly wear. Because for me that is the Elegia, right? Like that's like, because it's closed back, especially in the summertime, got air conditioner going, stuff like that, right? So for me it's like I want that to be the LCD XC, but the weight is still like oof. And so maybe I don't know, maybe I need to like ask them if they can make me like a custom carbon one or something.
The carbon fiber headband would help a little bit.
So I imagine that it would, but the thing is as well, if you look at the I'll need to email them and see what's going on with this. But like, I wonder if the specs are correct for the weight on the website for the carbon fiber version, like with the carbon backing, because it's strange to me that the wood one would be lighter. Like the wood one, it says the maple one, it says 690 grams, while the carbon one is like 760 grams. And I thought that doesn't sound right. So I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe if they got it backwards, that would make a certain amount of sense. And then it's like, well, that's like 70 grams lighter. That's probably worth it.
Yeah.
But
I've heard people say 30,
still confusing.
30 grams is like from what I've
I could see 30 being yeah.
There's two questions that came up real quick, and I think I can answer one definitively, and the next one I think we can all kind of chime in on. But the first one was comparing the Verite Open versus the Verite Closed real quick. I'd say they're almost identical in sound, but the closed has, because I think it's closed back, the resonance factor gives it this more of a 3D feel, I guess, or sound profile, but they're technically performing at the same level. I just think that the Verite Closed has a more interesting holographic factor, or 3D-ness, as they like to say. I think that was a joke for a while there going around, the ZMF 3D-ness of the Verite Closed. But otherwise, I think for my recommendation is go with what is your use case and what aesthetically pleases you most with the Verite Closed versus Verite Open. Like, I do personally think the Verite Closed kind of just edges over in performance the Verite Open, but that's my personal preference. And I'm also probably biased because I have the one off, but so that was that one. And then the next one is at what point is like headphones a diminishing thing over just getting speakers, right? And I think that that is something to think about, but there's also the factor of like, I have a family, I have some people live in apartments, some people live in condos, some people have all sorts of stuff like that, where speakers are fantastic, but at times it's just not a viable option to listen on a regular basis. I think that's my, at least for me, that was my, because I love speakers, but I think that, and also the pricing tiers tend to go way crazier than headphones.
Yeah, they definitely do. The thing with, like, I don't know, I'm finding myself being more interested in speakers, more and more, right? Mm-hmm. Increasingly, but for the same reason, it's all my environment is not suitable for speakers. But I have heard really nice speakers, and I do think that with headphones you still get more detail for your money. Like you get more, like you can get really highly detailed speakers as well, like that are really impressive. But I think the very nature of eliminating the room and eliminating the distance and the crossfeed means that you're just going to generally get a better sense of image placement, separation, detail, all that stuff with headphones regardless. And this is something that Steve Guttenberg was talking about as well in one of his videos, where he's saying like, we might be really into like this all this high end speaker stuff, but if you want to like really look into the music and like peer into it in the best way possible, it's with headphones. So I in my mind, like that's still like an important distinction, is still an important barrier there. So even the very best speakers, like I don't know, I don't want to say that the best like the best speakers aren't as good as the best headphones, because like the enjoyment that you would get from the best speakers is probably a lot more.
Yeah,
But at that one specific thing of like isolating and like separating everything and like being able to
room
get that
correction. You also
very
have that factor for the speakers. Too.
yeah that well that's what I'm saying, right? Like all that stuff, right? Just that very fact of eliminating all of the different yeah so for that one specific thing, I think headphones are still going to be better in general. But for overall enjoyment, no, I think there's like that drop off starts to happen pretty quick, I think. Speakers can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think speakers are fantastic. The use case is tough for me
personally. That's the other thing. Use case is like, if you don't have a purpose built room for this kind of stuff, headphones are just gonna be better, in my opinion. Please compare Ether 2 versus ADX 5000. Both are flagship plus lightweight. Oh man, you have completely opposite headphones there. Those are not two to be. The ADX 5000 is pretty bright, and the Ether 2 is really dark. And one's a planar, one's a dynamic.
I will say the Ether 2 is probably one of the most comfortable headphones I've ever worn.
Ether 2 is definitely more comfortable than the ADX 5000, for me at least. Like, I think if you have a smaller head, the ADX 5000 might be on par because it's pretty light.
Yeah.
But the Ether 2 was just more comfortable in general. For detail, I'd give the edge to the ADX 5000.
Yeah.
Like for technical performance, I recall for sure.
The Ether 2 is way smoother. Like it's more
the
laid back.
The down,
Sorry, I'm not using technical.
No, it's all good. The upper mid range kind of cut, makes it a bit more laid back for sure. Aurorus Audio Australis for top of the line closed back headphone. I haven't heard. I need to hear it in a my own environment. I heard it at the meetup in Seattle, which was a lot of fun, and I liked that one. Actually, looks better because it doesn't have the
like the purple version.
There's a purple version. There you go. But the backing, there's a backing to it, right? So it doesn't have the exposed what looks like an exposed driver there.
My experience, I listened to them at the same time that you did that time, and I remember listening to them, and like maybe it was just my frame of mind at the time or what have you, but like I thought they were great, but I didn't walk away with I need to buy this. Like, if that makes sense.
So that's the thing with them with those ones, is that they're really doing well with the frequency response stuff, and so that's where the fun comes. It's like it shows what's possible with good frequency response and good tuning. What my takeaway was that it was like a better Fostex, like those like TR like X00 Ebony's. It sounded like a better version of those, which I think that's all it really needs to do to be worth it. But it'd be cool to see how that competes to like or with like ZMF Atticus and Icon and some of those,
because that's where you're going to be competing with closed
like the dynamic driver closed back headphones that are for that, especially for that kind of like custom look kind of thing.
Planar Verite, not my realm, but based on what you always say,
complementary planar, or like
that's what I think. I think to me, based on what you always say, I'm going to I'll throw it out there as the probably the Aria, right? That's what I would think. But I've never heard
it depends,
Aria, so.
Like if you want like one warm, one bright, or one warm, one.
And that's what I'm thinking. The Aria being the better.
I think that's what a lot of people do. Like
Rad
I know
Zero?
Rad Zero. Well,
see, the Rad Zero is very similar to me, at least when I heard them. Like as far as like the profile, not like obviously the same frequency range, but like the profile of them.
I would not say Empyrean.
No,
someone says Empyrean. No. Because like actually the Empyrean's frequency response is not that bad. It's decent, but as a counter, as like a complementary headphone, right? Like so they're not doing the same thing essentially.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like it would be...
I'd say Aria or head audio headphone.
Oh yeah, headphone. See, that's my problem. I never think of the headphone as like a planar for whatever reason, so I never.
It's because it's not. It's not a planar, but it's.
Well, the HD800 isn't a planar, but I feel like it's different enough to where. It's
you could just go with an HD800.
Yeah, HD800
right? That's another.
Fantastic. Great. That's what I actually did. So.
Yeah.
I know, because that's what I would do. I'm just throwing that out. That's what I would do.
As long as you can keep one in place without breaking it.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much for hanging out today. And, yeah.
do we even have any more HD 800s or?
Do we
I don't
break
know.
them all?
I'm working
we
on
do-
the army. Oh my god, guys, I'm working on it.
I feel bad for Sennheiser if they're ever watching this.
Yeah.
You're not feeling bad for me?
No, I do feel bad for you.
Yeah.
Because you only got to listen to it for a little
Like,
bit,
yeah,
right?
that's
Which is
sad.
Yeah, 2
Which is a
hours,
bummer.
and then I'm telling you, they were half broken. I just finished doing the job.
Yeah.
Well, I finished what they started. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Fun.
But anyways, we should probably end it there because
Yeah,
we've been
right,
going for
12
like almost 2 hours now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. I think
Yeah.
that was a good stream. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and we'll catch you. I think we're gonna do another one of these probably next week, probably around the same time, same
Yeah,
bat place,
something like
same
that.
bat time.
Yep. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for your questions.
All right. Well, you want to go ahead and